There is a voice inside your head right now that claims to be you. It narrates your life, judges your choices, fears your losses, and clings to your victories. It whispers, "This is who I am," as though identity were a fixed thing, a monument carved in stone rather than a river endlessly reshaping its banks. But what if that voice is not you at all? What if it is merely a mask, a story woven by time, conditioning, and the desperate need to feel permanent in an impermanent universe? This is the threshold we stand upon. This is the moment where the egoth great imposter of the mind is exposed. Imagine, if you will, that your entire life has been a dream. Not in the trivial sense of fleeting thoughts, but in the way a masterful illusionist crafts a reality so convincing that even the dreamer forgets they are asleep. The ego is that illusionist. It tells you that you are separate from others, from the world, from the vast, humming silence of existence itself. It thrives on division, on the belief that you are here and everything else is out there. But what if that division is the grandest lie ever told? The ancients knew this. The mystics, the sages, the ones who slipped beyond the veil of ordinary perception, they spoke in riddles not to confuse, but because the truth cannot be contained in the language of the thinking mind. Know thyself, they said, not as an invitation to catalog your preferences and memories, but as a command to dissolve into the infinite. To realize that the self you believe in is a shadow cast by the light of pure awareness. And yet, here we are, trapped in the labyrinth of our own making. We chase happiness as though it were a destination, build identities like fortresses, and wage wars both internal and externalto, defend what was never truly ours to begin with. The ego is not evil, it is simply lost. It is a child wearing a king's crown, believing itself to rule when all along it has been playing a role in a much larger story. But what happens when the child wakes up? That is what this journey is about. Not destroying the ego, but seeing through it. Not annihilating the self, but realizing that the self you thought you were was always an echo, a ripple in the ocean of consciousness. This is not philosophy, it is alchemy. It is the transformation of lead into gold, of fear into freedom, of separation into wholeness. And it does not take a lifetime of meditation, though it can. It does not require retreating to a mountaintop, though that may help. It can happen now, in the space between two breaths, in the silence between two thoughts. This is the promise and the warning. Because to see the ego for what it is, to truly see itis, to dismantle the foundation of everything you thought was real, your fears, your desires, your very sense of I, will tremble before this recognition. Some run from it, some cling harder to their illusions, but for those who dare to look, something extraordinary awaits. The realization that you were never the person you believed yourself to be. You are the awareness behind the person, the vastness behind the story, the silence behind the noise. This is not a theory, this is not a belief, this is the direct experience of awakening, and it is closer than your next thought. So take a breath, let go of what you think you know, and step carefully, courageously into the unraveling. The ego is not some malevolent entity lurking in the shadows of your psyche. It's far more insidious than that. It is the water you swim in, the air you breathe, the invisible script running beneath every decision, every reaction, every moment you mistake yourself for the thinker rather than the awareness behind thought. To dismantle it, we must first understand its design. The myth of separation. At its core, the ego is a story of division. It thrives on the belief that you are here and the world is there. It whispers that your body is your boundary, your name is your identity, and your memories are your truth. But peel back the layers, and a startling question arises. Who is the you that owns these things? Imagine standing before a mirror. The reflection moves when you move, smiles when you smile, but no one would mistake the reflection for the source. The ego is that reflection, convincing you it is the origin of your being. It is a character in a play, believing itself to be the playwright. This illusion of separation is not accidental. It is the foundational spell cast upon human consciousness, the veil that keeps us searching outside for what can only be found within. The mystics called it Mayath grand illusion, The philosophers named it duality. Modern psychology might frame it as the constructed self, but the truth remains the same. You are not the voice in your head. You are the one who hears it. The fear of dissolution. Why does the ego fight so fiercely to maintain its grip? Because its existence depends on resistance. It knows on some primal level that to be seen fully is to be seen through. Like a shadow shrinking in the light, the ego dissolves in the presence of pure awareness. This is why spiritual awakening is often described as both ecstatic and terrifying. The mind screams, "If I am not my thoughts, my achievements, my pain, then what am I?" It clings to suffering because even suffering reinforces the illusion of a solid I. But here lies the paradox. The very fear of losing yourself is what keeps you from finding yourself. The mechanics of identification. The ego sustains itself through a process called identification, the unconscious habit of claiming thoughts, emotions, and experiences as mine. A thought arises, "I am not good enough." The ego seizes it, not as a passing cloud in the sky of consciousness, but as proof of its own reality. "This is who I am," it declares. And so, the cycle continues. But what if you could disidentify? What if you could observe the thought without becoming it? This is the essence of ego dissolution, not destruction, but detachment. It is the difference between being lost in a storm and standing on the shore, watching the waves rise and fall without being swept away. The role of time. The ego is a time traveler. It drags the past into the present as regret, guilt, or nostalgia. It projects itself into the future as anxiety, ambition, or expectation. But the present moment, the only moment that truly exists, is its greatest enemy. In the now, the ego has no foothold. It cannot survive in pure presence, because presence has no story, no label, no me to defend. This is why so many awakening experiences happen in moments of sudden stillness, a breathless pause between thoughts, a glimpse of the sky, an instant where the mind stops narrating and simply is. The cosmic joke. There is a profound humor in all of this. The ego spends a lifetime building walls, only to realize when the walls finally crumble that there was never anything on the other side but itself. The seeker discovers that what was sought was the seeker all along. The dancer wakes up to find they are the dance. This is the great revelation. You are not a drop in the ocean. You are the ocean in a drop. The ego's greatest fear, annihilation, turns out to be its only salvation. For in losing itself, it finds what it was always pretending to be: limitless, timeless, free. There is a reason the greatest truths are often cloaked in myth, parable, and symbolism. They speak to a part of us that logic cannot reach. They bypass the thinking mind and resonate directly with the soul. To truly grasp the nature of the ego's illusion, we must step beyond abstract concepts and into the realm of story, where wisdom reveals itself in layers, like an onion slowly peeled back to reveal its empty core. The chariot and the false charioteer. In the Katha Upanishad, an ancient Vedic text, the human condition is depicted as a chariot hurtling through existence. The body is the chariot itself. The senses are the horses. The mind is the rain sand, the ego. The ego is the false charioteer, the one who believes it is steering, unaware that it too is being pulled by forces beyond its control. But there is another passenger in this chariot, the true self, silent and all-knowing, the actual master of the journey. The ego does not see this silent witness. It is too busy shouting directions, mistaking its frantic efforts for control. Only when the chariot stops, when the horse is still and the reins go slack, does the imposter realize, I was never driving. I was only pretending. This is the moment of awakening when the false self is exposed, not through force, but through the simple, humbling recognition that it was never in charge to begin with. The mirror and the reflection. Zen masters speak of the mind as a mirror rudderly clear, reflecting all things without distortion, yet never stained by what passes before it. The ego, however, mistakes the reflections for itself. It sees anger in the mirror and says, I am angry. It sees desire and claims, this is who I am. But the mirror does not cling. It does not identify. A storm may rage across its surface, yet the mirror itself remains untouched. This is the essence of non-attachment, not the absence of experience, but the liberation from the belief that the experience defines you. There is a famous koan, "What did your face look like before your parents were born?" The question is not a riddle to solve, but a hammer meant to shatter the mirror of identity entirely. When the ego cannot answer, when it reaches the limits of its knowing, something else emerges, the vast, wordless awareness that was there before the first thought, before the first name, before the first story of I was ever told. The Fisherman and the Pearl. A Sufi parable tells of a fisherman who spent his life diving for pearls, each dive taking him deeper into the cold, dark waters. One day, exhausted and empty-handed, he collapses on the shore, gasping for air. As he lies there, the sun warms his face, and for the first time, he notices something glinting in the sand beside him. It is the most magnificent pearl he has ever seen, one that had been there all along, waiting just beneath the surface. The ego is the diver, convinced that truth must be sought in the depths, in effort, in struggle. It does not realize that what it seeks has never been lost, only overlooked. The pearl is your true nature, shining silently beneath the noise of striving, already whole, already perfect. The mask and the actor. In ancient Greek theater, actors wore masks personasto, embody their roles. The word persona eventually gave us personality, the face we show the world. But here lies the deeper truth. The actor is not the mask. The mask is a tool, a temporary guise. The ego is the mask that has forgotten it can be removed. It clings to its role, terrified of what might happen if the performance ends. But when the play is over, when the mask is finally set aside, the actor remains unchanged, undiminished, free. The cosmic dreamer? Hindu cosmology speaks of Vishnu, the great preserver, dreaming the universe into existence. In this dream, all beings arise, live, and dissolve, yet Vishnu remains undisturbed. You are both the dreamer and the dreamed. The ego is the character in the dream, convinced of its separateness, while your true nature is the awareness in which the entire dream unfolds. To awaken is not to leave the dream, but to realize you were never confined by it to begin with. The greatest spiritual insights mean little if they remain abstract, floating in the realm of theory like clouds that never rain. To truly dissolve the ego not as a philosophical concept, but as a lived reality, we must bring this awareness into the messiness of daily life. This is where the rubber meets the road. This is where freedom is either realized or abandoned for the comfort of old illusions. The art of watching without naming. Every moment presents an opportunity to step out of identification. A rude coworker, a traffic jam, a personal failure. These are not just inconveniences, but perfect mirrors reflecting where the ego still clings. The practice is simple, though not easy. Observe the reaction without becoming the reactor. When anger arises, instead of thinking, I am angry, try, there is anger. This subtle shift in language is a seismic shift in consciousness. It creates space between the emotion and the awareness of it. You are not deleting the feeling. You are recognizing that the feeling is not you. It is a passing weather pattern in the sky of mind. This is not suppression. This is liberation from the tyranny of automatic reactions. The end of psychological time. The ego survives on the fiction of past and future. It dredges up old wounds to justify present suffering. Because X happened, I must feel Y, and projects itself into an imagined future to avoid the now. When I achieve Z, then I'll be happy. To collapse this illusion, when recalling the past, ask, is this memory serving my awakening or reinforcing my story? When anticipating the future, ask, am I planning or am I escaping the present? The present moment is the only place where the ego cannot dominate, because now is where reality actually exists. The death of comparison. Social media, career ladders, even spiritual hierarchies. I'm more awakened than X. All are playgrounds for the ego. The moment you measure yourself against another, you've fallen back into separation. Practice. Next time you feel superior or inferior to someone, pause. Recognize that both sensations are the same ego, just wearing different masks. True confidence needs no comparison. It is the quiet certainty of being exactly what you are, without reference to another. The silent space between actions. Modern life is a minefield of ego reinforcement. Checking your phone to avoid stillness, talking unnecessarily to fill silence, saying I when it would suffice, I am stressed versus there is stress. Countermeasures. Insert 3 conscious breaths before responding in conversation. Spend 5 minutes daily doing nothing but watching thoughts like passing cars. Replace I think with there is a thought in internal dialogue. These are not just exercises, they are tiny revolutions against the dictatorship of ego. Relationships as mirrors. Every conflict with another person is ultimately a conflict between your ego and theirs. The instant you feel offended, ask, what part of me is feeling threatened here? The answer will always point to an identification with an idea, a self-image, a belief. The most spiritual thing you can do in any relationship is to stop needing the other person to change. This doesn't mean tolerating abuse, it means recognizing that your peace was never dependent on their behavior to begin with. The paradox of effortless effort. The final joke, trying too hard to kill the ego is just the ego spiritualizing itself. You don't dissolve the ego by fighting it, you dissolve it by seeing through it. Like a dream that vanishes upon waking, the illusion of separation disappears when recognized as illusion. This is why all true teachings point back to awareness itself, not changing what you are, but realizing what you've always been. We have walked through the fire of understanding through the illusions of the ego, the myths that reveal its emptiness, and the practical steps to live beyond its grasp. Now we arrive at the simplest and most profound truth of all. You are already free. Not in some distant future, not after years of practice, but right now, in this very instant where awareness meets these words. The ego will resist this conclusion. It will whisper that awakening must be more complicated, more dramatic, more special. It will try to turn even this realization into another achievement, another identity to claim, now I am enlightened. But that is just the final trap. The moment you claim awakening is yours, you have lost it, because the I that claims is the very illusion being dissolved. The invitation. This is not an ending, but a beginning, the start of living as the vastness you truly are, while still dancing in the world of form. Imagine a wave realizing it is the ocean. It doesn't stop being a wave, it just knows its true nature for the first time. Your relationships, your work, your challenges, none of these need to change for you to awaken. But how you meet them will transform entirely. Pain may still arise, but it won't crystallize into suffering. Joy will come, but it won't be clung to as a possession. Life will flow through you, not at you. The last illusion to release. Even the concept of ego dissolution can become a spiritual crutch. The mind loves milestones, but awakening is not a finish line. It is the collapse of the entire race. There is no awakened person. There is only awareness momentarily appearing as a person, then dissolving back into the infinite. If you take one thing from this journey, let it be this. You don't have to become anything. You only have to stop pretending you're not everything already. The call? So here is the experiment. Should you choose to accept it? For the next 24 hours, live as if the ego never existed. When thoughts arise, don't claim them, watch them like clouds. When emotions surge, don't resist or indulge it, they'll move through the space of you. When someone irritates you, see their behavior as a reflection of universal patterns, not a personal attack. When you look in the mirror, smile at the character looking back, but know it's just a temporary mask. You'll forget. The ego will reassert itself 100 times, but each time you remember each time, you recognize the illusion as illusion, you chip away at the prison walls. One day, perhaps today, perhaps years from now, there will come a moment when the remembering doesn't stop, when the veil doesn't close again. And in that moment, you'll laugh not because something has changed, but because you'll see nothing ever needed to. The sky doesn't struggle to be vast, the ocean doesn't try to be deep, and you, the true you, beyond all names and concepts, don't need to become free. You only need to stop pretending you're not.